I'm David Fleming from the Disciples Ignited YouTube channel, where we're focused on Jesus, advancing his kingdom, and preparing his disciples. Now, we started a new study on the wilderness journeys, where we're going to study how the Lord delivered the Israelites out of Egypt, took them through the wilderness into the promised land. And in yesterday's video, we started studying about Moses, the leader that God was going to use to literally lead the Israelites out of Egypt through the wilderness, and then right before they got into the promised land. Now, we studied yesterday about how Moses' life is really divided into three different parts. So you don't want to miss that. So check back yesterday's video if you didn't listen to that one. But today we're going to talk in more detail about this beginning years of Moses, from the time that he was 1 to 41 that he spent in Egypt. Now, Moses' beginning years in Egypt were full of faith and presumption. Now, faith was definitely found in Moses' life while he was in Egypt. Did you realize that when Moses was an adult in Egypt, he put his faith in the Lord? Now, listen to this. Hebrews chapter 11, verses 24 through 26 tells us, by faith, Moses, when he had grown up, refused to be known as the son of Pharaoh's daughter. He chose to be mistreated along with the people of God rather than to enjoy the fleeting pleasures of sin. He regarded disgrace for the sake of Christ as of greater value than the treasures of Egypt, because he was looking ahead to his reward. So this tells us that he already had a revelation of Christ. Hallelujah. And he put his faith in the Lord. Now, it was also during this time that Moses understood that he had a special call from God to deliver the Jews. Acts chapter 7, verse 25 tells us, Moses thought that his own people would realize that God was using him to rescue them, but they did not. Well, we also see that Moses' early life shows us how easy it is to mistake presumption for true faith. Now, because Moses had put his faith in the Lord and understood his divine call to deliver the Jews, he went into action. Unfortunately, the action that he took wasn't always a true act of faith. In one case, it was presumptive. See, presumption is when you act expecting God to back you up because you truly believe that you're doing God's will. But Moses acted, but he had not received instructions from the Lord to do what he did. See, he killed an Egyptian because the Egyptian was mistreating one of the Jews. So he killed the Egyptian because he thought that that was going to help him deliver the Israelites out of their bondage of Egypt. Well, the Lord didn't tell him to do that. You see, presumption, as I said, is when you act expecting God to back you up. But faith is when you act in obedience to the Lord. Well, when you start acting under your own self-motivation, that is presumption. See, Moses presumed that the Lord was using him to start delivering the Jews when he killed that Egyptian. Presumption eventually leads to failure, which brings disappointment, discouragement, and disillusionment. That's exactly what happened to Moses. And so next we find that Moses fled Egypt. He left Egypt in fear for his life, and he went to the desert, where he was going to spend the next 40 years of his life being prepared by God. So join me tomorrow, and we'll talk about that.